We got a massive player update yesterday in College Football 25. This update changed a bunch of ratings for players as well as updated some of their numbers and their positions. It's hard to figure out every single player that they updated their rating or their number or their position because there's so many different players in this game. Definitely go check out your own team. You'll probably notice some of the guys are better or worse, or maybe they fixed their number or their position. But in this video, I'm gonna list all the players that had the biggest jump in overall, as well as the players that had the biggest fall in overall. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to list the top 10 players that received an update to their overall. So they may have gone up or gone down, but they're going to be the top 10 that did receive an update. And it's possible I did miss some players in this video because, like I said, there's just so many players in this game. But I did my best to accumulate the list of players for each of the things I'm going to talk about. Okay, so first let's talk about the players that had the biggest jump in overall. Number one, by far, unless I just completely missed somebody, it's Marquise Cooper, the Buffalo cornerback. He jumped 27 spots. This guy was a 53 overall player before this update, and he's a transfer from Colgate that barely played at Colgate and then barely played last year at Buffalo. So he just kind of sprung onto the scene as having a really good year, so now he's an 80 overall. Next, we have South Carolina wide receiver Mazeo Bennett. He's a true freshman, has several catches so far in the year. He wasn't really expected to do much, but he's jumping up 16 overall points from a 64 overall to an 80 overall. Next, we have Iowa running back Caleb Johnson, who went up 13 overall points to an 87. He's having a really good year, over 600 yards through 4 games. He's basically carrying that Iowa offense, so he is now an 87, up from a 74. Next, we have Texas A&M tight end Trey Watson, who went up 11 overall points, so a 69 to an 80 overall now. He transferred in from Fresno State, wasn't a huge name, but he's gotten a lot of playing time so far, so now he's an 80 overall. Next, we have Duke safety Terry Moore. He went up 10 overall points from a 76 to an 86. He's having a really solid year, moving into a full-time starting position. He's got 2 picks already on the year, so now he's an 86 overall. This is the last player I'm aware of that jumped up double-digit overall points. So Skyler Bell, wide receiver for UConn, he went from a 72 to an 82 overall. Through 5 games, he has 500 yards, so now he's up to an 82. Everyone here on out has only jumped up 9 or less overall points, so those first 5 jumped up at least 10. Next, we have left tackle Chris Adams of Memphis. He is a transfer from Old Dominion. I believe he's their starting left tackle here at Memphis. He's gone up 9 overall points from 71 to 80. Next, we have defensive end Dylan Stewart. This is a big name a lot of people are probably going to recognize. True freshman, absolutely balling out. He's gone up 9 overall points from a 78 to an 87. Next, we have Oklahoma cornerback Connie Walker, who's gone up 9 overall points from a 76 to an 85. He's a starting cornerback for the Sooners, having a pretty good year, so he's up 9 overall points. Next, we have tight end from Texas, Gunnar Helm, who's up 8 overall points from a 77 to an 85. He has a little over 200 receiving yards on the year, one of the better tight ends in college football, so he's up 8 overall points. Next, we have Michigan State cornerback Charles Brantley, who's up 7 overall points from a 76 to an 83. He missed most of the season last year due to injury, but he's back as a full-time starter and having a pretty decent year. Next, we have Navy slot back or halfback or wide receiver, whatever you want to call him, because Navy obviously runs the option. Eli Heidenreich, he's up 7 overall points from a 77 to an 85. He has over 400 all-purpose yards on the year, so he's up 7 overall points. Next, we have Buffalo linebacker Sean Dolak, who's up to an 89 overall from an 82, so up 7 overall points. He's having a great year, 11 tackles for loss, 2 picks. He's absolutely balling out. He's easily Buffalo's best player here on College Football 25, as you can see. Next, we have starting center for Rutgers, Gus Zielinskis. He's up 7 overall points from a 79 to an 86. Rutgers is currently off to a 4-0 start, and he's a big reason why. Next, we have Michigan running back Kalel Mullings, who's up 6 overall points from an 81 to an 87. And he should be higher rated than Donovan Edwards. He's not, and I think the main reason is because Donovan Edwards is on the cover, and they didn't want to put him above Donovan Edwards. But if you watch Michigan, it's clear that Mullings is RB1 over Donovan Edwards. Next, we have Troy wide receiver Devontae Ross, who's up 6 overall points from a 78 to an 84. He's over 500 yards through 5 games on the season, so having a solid year. and he's up 6 overall points. Next, we have Boston College quarterback Thomas Castellanos. A lot of people know his name by now. He's having a really solid year so far. He's up 5 overall points from a 79 to an 84. And lastly, we have Michigan State linebacker Jordan Turner, who's also up from a 79 to an 84, so 5 overall points. He transferred in from Wisconsin and is having a really good year, 7 tackles for loss already on the year, so he's up 5 overall points. So that is every player that jumped at least 5 overall points, unless I missed somebody, which is definitely possible, but that's the full list that I have. So let's move into the biggest fallers, the guys that dropped the most in overall. There's less of these guys, and their change in overall is less dramatic. I think EA didn't want to basically insult these players since they are doing NIL deals with them. They didn't want to drop a guy like 10 overall points. So most of these guys only dropped like 3 or 4 overall points. And actually there's only 2 guys that dropped at least 3 overall points. So most of these guys only dropped 2 overall points. This is everybody that I'm aware of that dropped at least 2 overall points. So first up we have left tackle Darius Washington out of Florida State. He dropped 4 overall points, which is the most in the game that I'm aware of. So he dropped from an 89 to an 85. And you'll notice that half this list is actually Florida State players because they've just been pretty bad. Next we have SMU quarterback Preston Stone, who dropped 3 overall points from an 87 to an 84. He's the only player I'm aware of that dropped 3 overall points, and he actually lost the starting job, so it makes sense that he's dropping a little bit. The rest of these players only dropped 2 overall points. So first we have Kansas quarterback Jalen Daniels, who dropped from a 90 to an 88 overall. Kansas has just not had a solid start to this year after some people picking them to win the Big 12, and people were expecting Jalen Daniels to have a better year than he's had so far. Let's rattle off 3 Florida State players real quick. Patrick Payton dropped 2 overall points from a 90 overall to an 88 overall. Roydell Williams, the transfer from Alabama, the running back, he dropped from an 85 to an 83 overall. And then right guard TJ Ferguson dropped from an 83 to an 81 overall. So they all dropped 2 overall points. And again, Florida State's just having a really bad year, and so a lot of these players are taking a hit. Next, we have Texas safety Andrew Makuba, who transferred from Clemson. He's dropping 2 overall points from an 89 to an 87. Just not quite as good as they thought he was going to be after transferring from Clemson, but still a solid player. Lastly, we have NC State quarterback Grayson McCall, who dropped from an 88 to an 86. He's the transfer quarterback from Coastal Carolina, obviously. He got injured this year, and now Bailey has been starting in his place. But he really hasn't looked that good when he was playing, so that's why he's dropping here 2 overall points. Lastly, let's go through the top 10 overall players that did receive a ratings update. First, we have Travis Hunter, who went from a 95 to a 97. For some reason, my game is showing 98, as you can see here on the screen. And I had somebody else show me this as well, that theirs was showing 98. So I'm not sure if it's supposed to be 97 or 98, but either way, he's up from a 95. Next, we have Will Johnson, the DB out of Michigan. He's up from a 96 to a 97. So the 2 best players in the game are both DBs if you count Travis Hunter as a defensive back. Next, we have Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty. Most people know his name by now. He was good last year, but he's going insane this year. He's up 4 overall points from a 92 to a 96. Next, we have Oklahoma State running back Ollie Gordon, who's actually down 1 from a 96 to a 95 overall. Just not having a great year so far. Maybe he can turn it around, but he's down 1 overall point. Next, we have left tackle out of Texas, Kelvin Banks Jr. He's up from a 94 to a 95. Texas is arguably the best team in the country, and he's a part of the great offensive line that they have. Arizona wide receiver McMillan, or T-Mac, he is up 1 from a 94 to a 95 overall. One of the best wide receivers in the country, so it makes sense that he got a little bump here. Next, we have Iowa middle linebacker Jay Higgins, who's up from a 94 to a 95 overall as well. Iowa always has a great defense and a terrible offense. It's no different this year. Notre Dame safety Xavier Watts is up 2 overall from a 92 to a 94. I remember some people saying he might be the best defensive back coming into this year, so a well-deserved rating here. Next, we have North Carolina running back Omarion Hampton, who's up from a 93 to a 94 overall. He had over 1,500 yards last year. He's balling out this year as well, so he's up +1 overall. Lastly, we have Michigan tight end Colston Loveland, who's up from a 92 to a 93. He's one of the very, very few bright spots for that Michigan offense. I think I heard that he has more receiving yards than the next 4 guys combined. they literally don't even throw the football. They basically just run the football now with Alex Orji and Mullings and Donovan Edwards. But when they do throw the football, Loveland is that go-to target. So a well-deserved rating boost right here. So those are the top 10 players that did receive a ratings update. I did want to briefly talk about this as well. As I said, Travis Hunter was showing as a 98 overall for me, even though apparently he's a 97. Ryan Williams apparently is an 82, but he's showing as an 86 overall for me. So I don't know if that's a glitch or they actually are supposed to be 98 and 86. I'm sure there's other players that are showing like this as well. Obviously, this is just looking at the rosters from the main menu. So I'm not in Dynasty. They haven't progressed at all. So I'm not sure why it's showing like this. If this is happening to anybody else, definitely let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful. If you are enjoying the content, definitely subscribe here for more college football content. Follow me on Instagram at BringNCAA Back, and then follow me on X and TikTok at TubbyLight.